Hey everyone, welcome back to Brian's Horror Movies for Life YouTube channel. And welcome to this Jaws Orca franchise review series. Um, in this video we're going to start out and we're going to take a look at the first movie, this little unknown movie called Jaws from 1975 here, which I have on Blu-ray and digital code there. I actually just picked this up a couple years ago. Before that, I just had a standard DVD, but this movie's too good to just have a DVD of it. Let's talk about Jaws from 1975. I don't think I've ever really had an official, full-blown review on Jaws. I think I did kind of like a partial one a few years ago, but that video is gone now anyway, from like 5 years ago. Jaws is a 1975 American thriller film directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley. It stars Roy Scheider as police chief Martin Brody, who, with the help of a marine biologist, Richard Dreyfuss, and professional shark hunter, Robert Shaw, hunts a man-eating great white shark that attacks beachgoers at a New England resort town. Murray Hamilton plays the town's mayor, and Lorraine Gray portrays Brady's wife. The screenplay is credited to Benchley, who wrote the first drafts, and actor-writer Carl Gottlieb, who rewrote the script during principal photography. Shot mostly on location at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts from May to October 1974, Jaws was the first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean, and consequently had a troubled production, going over budget and schedule. As the art department's mechanical sharks often malfunction, Spielberg decided to mostly suggest the shark's presence, employing an ominous and minimalist theme created by composer John Williams to indicate its impending appearances. So, in the New England beach town of Amity Island, a young woman goes for a late-night ocean swim. An unseen force attacks and pulls her underwater. Her partial remains are found washed up on the beach the next morning. After the coroner concludes it was a shark attack, Amity Police Chief Martin Brody plans to close the beaches. Mayor Larry Vaughn persuades him to reconsider, fearing the town's summer economy will suffer. The coroner, apparently under pressure, now concurs with the mayor's theory that it was a boating accident. Brody reluctantly accepts their conclusion until young Alex Kinter is killed at a crowded beach. A $3,000 bounty is placed on the shark, causing an amateur shark hunting frenzy. Quint, an eccentric local shark hunter, offers his services for $10,000. Consulting oceanographer Matt Hooper examines the girl's remains, confirming that she was killed by an unusually large shark. So that's kind of the setup, the premise, the beginning of Jaws from 1975. As far as the cast goes, you have Roy Scheider as Chief Martin Brody, Robert Shaw as Quint, Richard Dreyfuss as Matt Hooper, Lorraine Gray as Ellen Brody, and Murray Hamilton as Mayor Larry Vaughn. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 1975 thriller film Jaws. A lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people don't consider this horror. A lot of people do. I would say that it's like a horror thriller film. That's how I would describe it. I do think there's enough horror here to at least have it be an adjacent horror film. Now, it's not, it might not be the kind of like horror film that a lot of people think of, but it's definitely got horror elements into it. So I am one that does consider this to be a horror thriller. That would be my interpretation of Jaws from 1975. And man, this movie's fantastic. I've probably seen it 20 or 30 times in my life, and upon my most recent watch the other night for this review, it's amazing how well it holds up. It's amazing how involved and invested I am in the story yet, despite knowing what happens and where it goes. It's just a masterpiece, in my opinion. It's an absolute one of the best movies ever made, not just horror thriller movies. I think this is one of the best movies that's ever come out of Hollywood. I think it might be Steven Spielberg's best movies, and there's some other contenders there, but there's just something special about Jaws. So let's talk about it, starting with the things that I really like about this movie. And the writing, the development, and the acting of the three main characters in this movie is really the first thing that comes to mind. Those three characters being Chief Brody, Quint, and Matt Hooper. They feel like real human beings as opposed to caricatures of characters or some standard cliche versions of a police chief, a marine biologist, and a fisherman. I think this is the strongest part of the movie that separates it from every other shark movie or aquatic horror movie that's out there. Is these characters and the effort that was put into them. It's a lot of the reason, like I said, that every shark movie after this isn't nearly as effective as this one. Because those movies think it's all about the shark, the shark, the shark, and all the effects and how the shark looks and showing the shark as much as you can, and even the kills, and they don't realize that that stuff is all that's all like surface level stuff. It's the characters on this island. These three main characters and even the side characters, even like the townspeople, that really make this an engaging and very effective story that just continues to age well after, what, 50 years now? 75, what are we in, 26, so 51 years. So yeah, that's really the first thing, are these three main characters that I'm absolutely, they're all very different, but they're all very interesting in their own ways. And like I said, the writing, the acting, and just the development that each of them are given without spending a lot of time on that development. We get to know them through character interactions, and that's one of my favorite things about this movie. All the problems and issues that they had, as I mentioned when I started reading the synopsis, that they had with Bruce the Shark, which is the mechanical shark they used in the movie, actually works to the film's benefit by having the shark as more of a presence throughout most of the movie, as opposed to an outright shark that we see on screen from the beginning, from the first shot of the movie. The fact the viewer doesn't see the shark until the third act, really, and it's full, like the full shark, all 25 feet of it, that they quote in this movie, it really amplifies the suspense and effectively delivers on the horror and the story of this movie. And I know they didn't write it that way. They didn't plan for it to be that way. But it's so, as it says, as I said in the synopsis, it has, Steven Spielberg decided to give much more of the presence because of the fact that the shark wasn't working most of the movie, and that presence, along with John Williams' score, just makes it such an effective thriller. It really does. And I just can't overstate that enough, that while it wasn't intentional, I'm sure, Spielberg looks back on it now and thinks, well, I guess some things happened for a reason. And I think it very much happened to their benefit. The shark not working as well as it did. I'm sure it was frustrating during the making of the movie, but looking back with the finished product, it really, I don't think the movie would have been as good if we would have seen the shark like from the first scene of the movie where Chrissy Watkins gets killed by the shark. You never actually see any part of the shark really in that scene, other than maybe a fin. And I don't even know if you see that much. And then the other deaths at the beach or the pond, you see the shark's fin mostly. And I think when the one guy the in the boat in the pond who has the leg that falls to the bottom, I think you might see more of the shark then, but like underwater. So just very effective, very much to the film's benefit there. The setting of this Amityville Island with the community of people, again, it feels very natural, very real, like a place that actually existed in 1975, as opposed to fictitiously created for a movie. I think it utilizes the island space very well, from the beach to the different parts of the ocean, to the boat docks, and the overall town businesses and locations. I think they do a really good job of really exploring and allowing you to feel this town, feel the people within this town, and kind of give you a good idea of what they all have to offer there. So I really enjoyed the setting here. Of course, you can't talk about Jaws without talking about the score and the music that was brilliantly created by John Williams, who's iconic in his own right. I mean, the greatest, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, the greatest score musician, whatever you want to call it, is John Williams in movie history. The greatest scorer, I don't know what the technical term is, but for somebody that's created music for film, there's never been any better than John Williams. All you have to do is look at his his filmography of movies that he's created. But I think Jaws is definitely in the top five of that. And that's saying something because there's a lot. But John Williams, just brilliant score. It's so iconic that even people that have never seen Jaws, when they hear that da 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 da, you know it's what it's from. It's just like Psycho. You know what movie it's from. You understand what that beat is all about, and that's really the highest praise you can get. Just the iconic nature of that score, and not just that score, but I think the whole I think the whole musical score used throughout this movie, even in the lighthearted moments, even in the different parts of the musical score here, not just the da 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 da, but I think it's all very effective for this film, and I think it's just brilliantly done. Um, but it's so important. Oh, I also want to add that the score is not only important to the overall movie, not only in terms of building tension and suspense, but just the overall vibes and feel, which I guess I kind of already said. The adventurous moments, the lighthearted moments, it all just works in this movie. It's also a very well directed movie by Spielberg. The fact that by realizing the shark wasn't working, he did what I mentioned before, which is to try to make the shark more of a presence that we don't see, but we definitely feel. Like this is a presence that's on screen as much as any character or part of the setting is, and that's without seeing them visually. So Spielberg, I still think it's his best, one of his top three best directed movies of all time, which again is difficult because there's quite a filmography there. Not as much in the last 25 years, but from like 75 to 2000, he's one of the greatest directors of all time, entertainment directors, as far as film goes, and this one is definitely top five. I think it's even higher than that. I think this is my favorite Spielberg movie. I really do, but there's definitely other contenders there. But he just does so well with this movie, with the underwater shots, giving us the shark's point of view, the camera work above water, like the zooming in on Brody when he's sitting on the beach, and the Kittner boys being killed, the ocean panning that happens when they're on Orca, the distant shots of Orca. It's just such a well paced, very tight script being executed at a very high level, letting us know who these characters are without spending a lot of time on doing it. It's just a brilliant directing job. That I know he almost got fired. He talks about it because he went over budget and over schedule, but talk about delivering a prized film. That's what Spielberg does here. I think the opening sequence with Chrissy Walken is terrific, very effective. It really sets the mood for what the viewer is in store for. I think the final act of the movie with our three main characters out at sea on the Orca trying to catch the shark, I think it's one of the best and most effective parts of any movie ever. The characters' interactions, including the humorous moments, the dialogue scenes, especially Quint's dialogue of the U.S. Indianapolis. It's one of the greatest delivery and exposition of dialogue that's ever been given on film. It really is. And then, of course, the suspenseful scenes of the shark and the full reveal of it, all culminating in this final intense confrontation and battle with these three characters. It feels, and it's not just that we think that they're going to win. I mean, this is a final battle that could go either way. Like, we don't know if the shark is going to wipe out these three characters, or if the three characters are going to be able to wipe out the shark. And that's just another brilliant piece of filmmaking there. And it's a highly rewatchable movie that I really think could have been rated R as much as it could have been PG, which it is. Now, of course, it's PG because there was no PG-13. This film has PG-13 written all over it. And actually, interestingly enough, the film was going to be rated R, but then they skimmed down a couple of scenes. They cut some pages from certain scenes, namely the guy that I talked about who was in the boat alongside of Brody's son and his friends. The guy who gets his leg amputated, gets his leg chewed off by the shark, and we see it falling. I guess that scene was a lot more graphic initially, and so that's where the R rating came in. But man, for a PG movie, there's a lot of blood. There's some, not F-bombs, but there's definitely some cursing in this movie. Like I said, I wouldn't be... I don't think this is a movie that if it were R rated, I would say, like, well, why is that R rated? That doesn't make any sense. But again, I can see why it's PG too, so I just kind of wanted to give that balance there. But PG 13 didn't exist until about another 10 years later. So yeah, I could go on forever, but those are my pros for Jaws from 1975. Just one of the best movies of all time. As far as cons go, I really had to nitpick just to come up with a couple. But there are a couple of questionable jump scares and fake outs. More of a fake out, I would say. There's one jump scare where Hooper drops the shark tooth when exploring Ben Gardner's boat in the middle of the movie. The scene, but especially the scene with the two kids and the cardboard shark fin that they use, which gets everybody out of the water and onto the beach. It's really, the timing of it there is kind of like, really? I mean, how do these kids think that this was... I mean, these kids should have been severely punished for this. They really should have been. It's just one of those things that they put in movies for the sake of having a sort of a suspenseful scene, but then throwing off the audience with... I don't want to call it a cheap jump scare. It's more of a cheap fake out, I would say. And then Brody, like I said, dropping the shark tooth when he's exploring Ben Gardner's boat there, because something pops into the old like round circle window of the boat. They're just a couple of, again, it doesn't take anything away from the movie, but they're just a couple of things that just kind of made me laugh. Like, really? You're going to throw that in at this time? And then the other thing is, again, the people have talked about this for years, but seeing the obvious mechanical shark at the very end as it sinks through the water, you can tell it's mechanical, but again, that's not really a secret. For 1975, I think there's a lot of CGI since, and it's looked a lot worse than this mechanical shark falling through the water. Let's put it that way. But like I said, I had to nitpick a couple of cons, and the fact I had to nitpick just for those tells you how great this movie is. I'm going to give Jaws from 1975 a 9.5 out of 10. It basically is a flawless movie without being a completely flawless movie for me, but it's as high as you can get. So 9.5 out of 10 for Jaws from 1975. It's a highly rewatchable movie, and if you don't own this movie, what are you doing with your life? If you haven't seen this movie, really, what have you been doing in life? So 9.5 out of 10 for Jaws from 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg. Go ahead and comment your guys' thoughts about this movie down below in the comments. Please like this video, hit the notification bell, and subscribe to my channel. If you haven't already, it would really help me out for the future content on my channel going forward. With all that being said, thanks for watching this first review. I've still got 4 more movies we're going to take a look at for this series. 3 in the Jaws franchise, 3 more. And then another movie called Orca the Killer Whale that we're going to go ahead and pigeonhole into this franchise review videos or series. So with all that being said, thank you for watching. Hope you're doing well. But as always, stay scared. Bye.